Ark of the Covenant was a golden box into which Moses himself had placed the 10 Commandments that had been given to him by God. It was the most important, most valuable object in the whole of Israel, which is why it's a little embarrassing that in this particular story they'd lost it. I mean, it wasn't that they didn't know where it was. They knew where it was. It just wasn't really theirs any longer. You see, the Philistines had come and had a battle with Israel. And for some reason, the Israelites thought, oh, I know, here's a really good idea. Let's bring the Ark of the Covenant to the battlefield. And then they'd lost. And when they'd lost the battle, they also lost the Ark. So the Philistines, having captured the Ark, took it to one of their top 5 cities called the city of Ashdod. And there, inside the city of Ashdod, they placed the Ark inside the temple of their god, Dagon. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, that's a funny-looking god. And you'd probably be right. But however strange it may seem, in those days, people used to make their own gods. They used to take bits of bronze or gold or silver or even just wood or iron, shape it into a shape of an animal or a person or a strange fishy person, mermaid with a beard type thing that you can see here. And then, even stranger, they would think it had magic powers and they would bow down and worship it. How crazy is that? You can't know what God's like unless he tells you. You can't decide for yourself what he's going to be like. You can't think what he looks like and go, oh yeah, that's it. You can't make your own God, although they did try. So let's see how this man-made God got on against the true God. Well, the next day, the priests from Ashdod come to their temple and discover that their god Dagon has fallen over. It's a bit embarrassing. So they go, oh, well, hope nobody notices. Let's stand him back up again. And they do. That's how powerful their god was. He couldn't even stand up if he fell over. And then, to make sure that he doesn't fall over again, they have to nail him to the floor. Wow, what an amazing god this is. And when they finished nailing and hammering the thing to the floor, they go, oh yes, that is never falling over again. And then the next morning, when they get there, it's fallen over again. And this time, Dagon's arms and head have broken off and roll all over the place. And actually, the guy who was writing this bit of the Bible wanted to make sure that what he'd been told about this was true. So he went to the temple in Ashdod and he asked around and said, did this really happen? And they said, yeah. Even today, they said, people who walk into the temple, the priests, they'll have to jump over a bit because that's where their god's head landed and they're kind of embarrassed by it. So yeah, the Bible, it's been checked. It's amazing. Anyhow, back to the story. So, the people in Ashdod, they're a bit worried. It's not just the priests. You know, the priests are kind of worried about the whole god falling over and breaking bits off and so forth. But the people are worried too. You see, in the city of Ashdod, the people who lived there, ever since the Ark of the Covenant arrived, they've been having these things called tumours appear. And tumours are like these strange lumps that just appear on their skin. And they're going, this is not good. What's more, ever since the Ark of the Covenant got there, there have been mice everywhere. And they're just going, where did these things come from? And finally they put 2 and 2 together and they go, this must be the God of Israel. He doesn't like the fact that we've stolen his covenant box. So they take the covenant box and they send it to another city. A city called Gath. And when the covenant box arrives in the city of Gath, the people who live in Gath, they all start to get tumours growing on them too. And they go, this is terrible. We don't like this. It must be the Lord's covenant box again. He's unhappy with us. Let's get rid of the Ark of the Covenant. So they send the Ark of the Covenant to another city called Ekron. And when it gets to Ekron, the people there won't even let the Ark into their city. They're going, no, we don't want tumours. Thank you very much. And the Philistines get together and go, well, if nobody wants this thing, what are we going to do with it? And the leaders come up with a plan. They say, why don't we get a cart and put the Ark of the Covenant on a cart? And then we can take two completely useless cows that cannot even walk in a straight line and have never ploughed or pulled anything in their life and attach them to the front of the cart. And if they just wander about all over the place, we know that actually it's just been coincidence. It wasn't really God at work. It just happened to be this way. But they said, if those cows that can't walk in straight lines walk straight back to Israel, not turning to the left and not turning to the right, then we'll know that all these things have happened because God himself is angry at what we did. So they take the ark, they put it on top of the cart, they put alongside it some golden models of rats and tumours and mice and the things that have been causing problems as a way of saying sorry to God. When you've done something that God doesn't like, it's always a good idea to say sorry. And having put all this on the cart, they just step back and see what happens. And what happens is that cart and those cows that can't even walk in a straight line head straight back to Israel, not turning to the left, not turning to the right. And so the Ark of the Covenant is back where it should be.